Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to take this moment to say thank you for listening to the Real ResQ podcast. It means a lot to me that you enjoy these stories as much as I do. Since the start of this podcast, we've had a lot of support from all over the world. It has been amazing. Now, we have companies joining our team that also want to say thank you for all that you are doing out there standing the watch. These companies are offering discounts on their products as a way to support the rescue community and those tuning into the Real ResQ podcast. Just go to therealresq.com, click on sponsors, and see these incredible offers for yourself. This episode of the Real ResQ podcast is brought to you by Breeze Eastern, the world's only dedicated helicopter hoist and winch provider. Axness, because when lives are at stake and conditions are challenging, clear communication is of the utmost importance. SR3 Rescue Concepts, because you don't know what you don't know. And Airwave, the Airwave Performance Mouthpiece, helping you to use breathing to your advantage. Breeze Eastern, they dedicate themselves to our helicopter rescue world. Since the very first helicopter rescue in November of 1945, Breeze Eastern has designed and manufactured superior rescue hoist solutions. While much of the technology and the unique mission requirements have changed over the past 75 years, their commitment to the rescuers, the operators, and those being rescued has not. Contact them today by visiting them at breeze-eastern.com. The Axness PNG wireless ICS system can bring cutting-edge wireless intercommunication system technology to any aircraft. The PNG system can be fully integrated into an existing ICS system or can be carried on and off as a mobile base station. They can go anywhere at any time on any aircraft. Plus, with the strongest and most robust waterproof handheld on the market, this system can take a hit and keep working. Their wireless intercom systems are designed to enhance situational awareness through improved communication capability. This system brings superior noise canceling technology to eliminate rotor wash and engine noise from your ICS. The Axness PNG wireless system is currently deployed in more than 1,800 public safety, air ambulance, and search and rescue aircrafts worldwide. I have personally used the Axness system in 4 different countries and on 5 different airframes. It is awesome. If you want more information, contact them today at axness.com. That's AXNES.com. You just make sure you tell them Quinny sent me. SR3 Rescue Concepts is a training company that can help your helicopter training. They train daytime, nighttime, aerial firefighting, hoist, long line, fast rope, rappel, and more. They can assist your program with standardization and safety checks or just an FAA annual refresher. With the certified flight instructor pilots and experienced crew, they are ready to help your agency keep up to date with current techniques, rules, regulations, and equipment. Plus, right now, SR3 is offering 10% off anything in their web store with the promo code, all capital letters, Real ResQ, REALRESQ. Plus, they are offering another 10% from their partners Petzl and their equipment. All you got to do is send an email to info@sr3rescueconcepts.com, mention this podcast, and they'll take care of the rest. And Airwave. What if I told you that you could train harder for longer and recover faster just by wearing a mouthpiece? I know, I questioned it too. Then I gave it a try. The Airwave Performance Mouthpiece is a breakthrough in performance technology that is scientifically proven with over 15 years of peer-reviewed, published research at the Citadel to open your airway by 25% for improved breathing, resulting in a 20% decrease in respiratory rate, an increase in muscular endurance, and 50% reduction in cortisol levels post-workout. Now, what does this mean to me? Well, now I'm able to train harder, recover faster, and be even more prepared for when that SAR alarm goes off. You don't need to take my word for it. Try it yourself and see how you can use your breathing to your advantage. Go to airwave.com or visit them on Instagram at airwave to learn more about it. Then, when you're ready to give it a try, because you heard about it here at the Real ResQ, you get 10% off with the promotion code Real ResQ, RealResQ. In this episode, I've got another pilot friend joining me for some of his stories. They were awesome, and him and I get to reconnect after many years of just going in different directions, the way the military rolls. Anyway, please welcome our next guest, United States Coast Guard pilot, Mr. Dan Leary. My name is Jason Quinn. I am United States Coast Guard rescue swimmer number 500. These are my rescues and rescues from those of us that put our lives on the line every day so others may live. This is the Real ResQ podcast. You've been up all night, haven't you?
No, I actually got to sleep. I was up at 5:30. I just came back from the gym with the kids. So I had a session with some middle school athletes from 6:30 to 7:15.
Oh, perfect. Nice.
Yeah.
That's the way to get the day started. That's how I started my day. Good little workout this morning. Oh, Love it. Right on. All right, well, let's go. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Real ResQ. Today, I've got a pilot brother with me. We kind of flew together in Kodiak, Alaska, and had some good times up there. Mostly training flights, I think, for you and I, right? I would say that, yeah. Anyway, so please welcome to the show, Mr. Dan Leary. What's up, Dan?
Hey, Quinny, good to see you.
Man, it is great to see you. It's been a hot minute since you and I have hung out and talked, so this is going to be fun.
Yeah.
So before I go too far, if you don't mind, just give everybody a little background about who you are and how you became like Coast Guard pilot, et cetera, and yeah, a little bit about you.
Okay, so I started my military career. I was a college dropout, didn't do well at college, so I joined the Marine Corps. I was in the Marine Corps, and I wanted to fly, couldn't fly. Got out of the Marine Corps, joined the Army National Guard to get the tuition waiver, and I was in an aviation unit, to be around helicopters. And then I found out, hey, you can go to flight school in the Army National Guard without a college degree. So you have to get in line, and there's a vetting process. And I got accepted to flight school in 1990, but I didn't attend until 1992. I had to wait 2 years.
Oh my gosh.
School. Yeah, it's really, it was a real funny story because I finally got the shot to go. I was older. I was 25 when I got accepted. I got to flight school right before my 27th birthday. So I really felt like Richard Gere in Officer and a Gentleman. I got nowhere else to go, but I was excited to be in flight school. Went to flight school 90, 92, 93. Went to Army flight school. Back then, that was during the drawdown. There weren't a lot of active Army slots available. So I came back to the National Guard in Massachusetts, and I flew my butt off. I flew like 300 hours a year as a part-timer.
Wow.
I didn't get paid a lot for a lot of it, but I was thinking, well, I'm going to build flight time, and it'll help me get a job. The National Guard had an opportunity for a full-time job in 97. They had passed me over, and I heard about the Coast Guard's Direct Commission Aviator program. And we were right across the ramp at Cape Cod from Coast Guard Air Station Cape Cod. And they would go out and launch in stuff that we wouldn't even walk to the helicopter for. So it was almost like we were the JV, they were the varsity. So
you're like, wait a minute, I thought we were National Guard. That's Coast Guard. Why are they going out and we're not? What is wrong with this picture?
Yeah, I saw them flying the H-3s, and then they got the H-60s. And so I went over there. Everybody knows somebody. And they were like, hey, we have this direct commission aviator program. And that program's kind of like a window. When they need pilots, the Coast Guard opens this window. And when they don't need pilots, they shut it. So the window was just opening again. And I networked the hell out of it. And that's the only reason I became a Coast Guard pilot, is because I was talking to anyone that was in the Coast Guard. I had my interview and I got selected. And I was just so totally geeked. So here I am. I'm 32. I'm a husband. I've got 2 baby boys, and I'm going to get to go be a Coast Guard pilot. And
that's so cool.
I talked to the detailer, and I don't know much about the Coast Guard. And he says, North Bend, Miami, Atlantic City, and Traverse City, rank them. And I ranked Atlantic City first, because I figured, well, it's 6 hours from home. And boom, he sends me to Traverse City. And my first question is, where's that? And they're like, Michigan. I'm like, we have the Coast Guard in Michigan? Oh, okay.
Isn't that
again,
like in the middle of the US? What is wrong with this picture?
I was so excited just to be in the Coast Guard and to be an active duty pilot. It was great. So off we go to Traverse City. Traverse City is not known for their SAR cases, but it is known for their just absolutely miserable weather. So I got to fly with a bunch of really awesome former Alpat pilots, Doug Nash, Tom Kay, Don Dyer, Bill Imel. You know, these guys just kind of take you under their wing, and they just train you, and you learn how to fly in really, really bad, snowy, icy weather. And then in the wintertime, we would pick up deployments to the Caribbean.
Oh, that's rough.
You'd take a helicopter, fly it to Miami, and jump on a boat for 6 to 8 weeks. And so that was pretty cool. And while I was there, as a pilot, you start looking at how you want to track. And I really like dealing with people, and I love the leadership aspect of being an aviation engineer. Plus, I saw how well being a former enlisted guy, I saw how well the engineers got along with their enlisted people and how much they cared for them. So I was like, man, I want to do that. And I was blessed because I had some heavy hitters as CEOs. I had Captain Harner, Boo Harner. Then I had, turned out to be Admiral Ostabo, Tom Ostabo. And then I got selected for engineering under Admiral Ostabo back when he was a commander. So then it's like, okay, where are you going to go? And like I said, Traverse City, people were either coming from Alpat or going to Alpat, which is, for your listeners, the Alaska Patrol. Basically, they're stationed in Kodiak. You do 2 or 3 deployments a year in the Bering Sea, flying a 65 off the back end of a Coast Guard cutter, which I thought was a really cool mission. And I'd heard all these amazing stories about Alaska. And so with my 2 baby boys and my wife, Marjorie, that she just loved the idea of us going to Alaska. Boom, off we go to Alaska. And that's where I met you, and O'Brien, and Jason Bunch, Tommy Poland, Will Milam.
Oh, we had such a good crew up there.
Well, my first job in Kodiak was to be I was the rescue swimmer officer. So I was in charge of the rescue swimmers, which you guys don't need anybody to be in charge. So I can remember going in and talking to Chief, was it Chief Williams, Dan Williams?
Yes. Yep.
So I walk in and I go, hey, think of me as your lawyer. I'm here to provide high cover and sage advice. Other than that, it's your shop, you know, and we got along great, you know. And then I did 4 deployments to the Bering Sea, became an Alaska qualified aircraft commander. you know, we joke in the Coast Guard, there's those that have been to Alaska and everybody else. So really, I was
Yeah.
super
Yeah.
proud of that. Then went to, I became the EO at Port Angeles. I did 3 years in Port Angeles. After that, I needed to do a staff tour, so they sent me to be the XO at the A school. So that was a really cool tour. And then when that finished up, I still needed a quote unquote pre-command billet. So I got to be an EO again, but this time they needed a 60 EO in Astoria. I'd always want to fly the 60. So came to Astoria, became the EO again, you know, which doing an EO tour the second time around is so much easier because you know everything. And I did that for 3 years. I extended to get my kids through high school, and then I just ended up retiring here, and now I fly for Life Flight.
What a career. Wow. Man, that's awesome. I love how you kind of ended on the big iron. That's kind of cool too. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
You know, it's so funny because, you know, there's they like to kid each other.
Yeah.
You know, and so I would always joke to the 60 guys, it'd be like, hey, anybody can do SAR in a capable platform. Okay.
That's
but
so
yeah,
true.
I really liked
is
flying the 60.
Yeah.
I love flying the 60. I used to tell everybody it's 11 tons of American freedom.
Can I get an amen?
Right.
Oh, that's awesome. All right. So now with that incredible career, do you remember your very first SAR case?
I do. So Johnny Donahue, I don't know if you remember Johnny Donahue. He was a swimmer in Traverse City with us. And I was with Johnny Donahue, and the aircraft commander was Don Marinello. And I think the flight mech was a guy named Scott Sheriff. Traverse City has an air facility in Muskegon, which covers the lower end of Lake Michigan in the summertime. So we were down there, and, you know, a lot of times we're just a speed bump on the process of evolution. This guy decided to take a jet ski, and he tried to jet ski.
Time out. You said you're just a speed bump to what?
The process of evolution.
Oh my God. That's the funniest thing I've heard all day. That's
oh, you're going to hear some great quotes.
Oh,
don't worry. I got a bunch of them from Blake Burris.
Oh God. I needed to hear that one again just to make sure I get that one right. That's funny. Okay. My bad. Keep going.
Yeah. Okay, so this guy decides to take a jet ski and try to jet ski from Michigan to Illinois.
Oh,
okay.
Okay.
He's going to run across the lake. And of course, he runs out of gas a third of the way there. We get a call. We start looking for him. They find him in the water. He's unresponsive. Johnny goes down and hoists him up. And I'm in the left seat. This is all new to me. So I'm running the radios. I'm watching Marinello do his rescue checklist and do the hoist and everything. And I'm looking over my shoulder, and I can see the guy in the back of the aircraft. And I'm thinking, he's dead. He's dead. And I watch Johnny straddle him, and he looks up at me with this devilish grin, and he mouths, "Watch this." And he gives him a big ass sternum rub. And the guy literally jumps. And I'm like, holy shit, he's alive. Holy shit, look at that. And so, you know, we zip him to a hospital, and he completely recovers. But what I'll never forget is, like, after that, like, man, the air just tastes better. You know, like the sun shines a little brighter, and you're just like, wow, we made an impact. And I mean, I sat in the left seat and ran the radios. I didn't do much, but man, Don and Scott and John, I was like, man, this is awesome. So that was my first rescue in the Coast Guard.
That is so cool. Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Check one, life saved. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I like
Which
it.
in Michigan, in Traverse City, there's probably 6 SAR cases a year back then. So, I mean, it was a big deal.
And you got one of them. Hey,
Yeah,
that's like a, you know,
exactly.
like you're
Exactly.
shooting, well, like, that's pretty good odds, actually. Oh, it's terrible odds, really. But you got
Yeah,
one of
it
them.
was,
So, hey,
I mean, it was pretty funny. Like for you to actually hoist someone in the basket at Traverse City, it was a big deal because there's just so many other assets and ways you know, if
Yeah.
we did a lot of inland SAR, so like you'd find someone, you'd wait for the ground party to get there, you know, really
fly
easy.
around
So
them like
anyways, yeah,
80
it was,
times. There they are.
and
It's
that was
right
the
there.
other, that was the nice part about going south too, because when you go down to the Carib, you'd get SAR cases and
Oh,
chase
nice.
guys and chase bad guys. So that was a good time.
Ooh. Well, should we move down to the Caribbean then to hear
So
some stuff down there?
yeah, so my second deployment with Bill Imel, God rest his soul, as the AC.
Sorry.
Russell Merrick, who just retired as an 04,
Russ Merrick. I do know Russ.
Was our flight mechanic. And of course, you didn't take a rescue swimmer on boat deployments. So we're on the Coast Guard cutter Forward. We're getting ready to, it's January 2000. We're getting ready to go to a port call in St. Thomas. And we get woke up about 3 o'clock in the morning, and the movie The Titanic had just come out.
Okay.
All right. So one of their passengers gets up on the bow and says, "I'm king of the world," and he falls off.
Of course he does.
And
I'm sorry, I'm laughing right now. That's terrible.
I'm all excited because Bill said if we have a search and rescue case, I get to sit in the right seat. So I get to actually be the one to manipulate the controls during the rescue. So I was super excited. So I'm running around and I'm the enthusiastic beginner. And Bill's like, "Hey, calm down, calm down." So he's like, most likely the guy is not going to be alive. He fell 80 feet off the bow. He probably went through the ship's screws. Oh, and we're in shark infested waters. Okay. So we launch out, and actually the mechanic was a gal named Jamie Hale. I'll remember that. Jamie Hale was the mechanic on this flight. And we're flying around, and lo and behold, there he is in the water. He's alive. He's treading water. And we're like, "Oh my God, rescue checklist part 2 for a basket pickup." Jamie puts the basket right next to him. Now the guy's been treading water all night. So he's been treading water for about 8 hours.
Holy smoke.
He gets next to the basket, and he just kind of collapses, but he doesn't climb in the basket. And I'm like, "Well, damn it, I'm not going to get to hoist him. He's just going to hang onto the basket till the boat gets here." Jamie kind of maneuvers the basket, comes us around. He flops in. We hoist him up and take him to St. Thomas. And the best part about that was later that day, we pull into St. Thomas. Everybody hears about the rescue, and we're at this bar called the Greenhouse. And one of the most interesting things about being on a ship is if you rescue someone, everybody on the ship feels that. It's a really big deal to them that somehow they helped save somebody. So I thought that was cool. Really cool. But nobody could buy a beer for anybody that wore a Coast Guard uniform that day on St. Thomas. So I got to do that. So I did that in Traverse City, and then in 2002 we drove to Alaska.
And here we go, Alaska.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you had a couple cool things in Alaska that, well, we were there together anyway. Like I said, so I didn't fly on the 65s too much while I was out there. I think I did one case on the 65, and it just so happened it was a boat that was up on land, and they needed some more pumps, and all the 60s were gone, and they were like, just take a 65 crew, you can fly it up. So I jumped on board with that and went up. But other than that, I think it was for you and I, it was just training, lots of different training flights that I would jump on with you guys. And other than that, I was flying in the 60. So,
Right.
but we
Yeah,
crossed
so,
paths a couple times.
yeah. Yeah. Or we'd see each other at, remember Bill and Mary's?
Oh yes. So all right,
Cold Bay Lodge.
yeah. All right. So out in the panhandle of Alaska, you have Cold Bay, and that's really just before you start getting into all the islands that run out. So if you look at a map, you're like Cold Bay, find Dutch Harbor on Alaska, keep going like northeast, and you'll find Cold Bay. Well, there's like what is it? It's like a bed and breakfast type place. And there's only like
Right.
12 people in the entire town.
You got to tell everyone the fact that there's a 12,000-foot runway there that's a divert for the space shuttle.
True statement. Very true statement. But Bill and Mary, so they have this like Airbnb, and there's like 12 rooms in it or something like that. But when we would go deploy over there, we would stay at Bill and Mary's, and that it was like the greatest time ever. It was like going to like Uncle Bill and Aunt Mary's house. Yeah.
It's like
Grandma Grandma's house.
So
like Thanksgiving dinners every night. Family
yeah,
style breakfast.
she had that big table. She had the big table with like 12 places. And so they ran, unbeknownst to us, Cold Bay is a really hot spot for duck and geese hunters.
Yes. And
ptarmigan. So Bill would run expeditions out of there. So my first SAR case, I'm on the Jarvis. We just left Kodiak like a day earlier. We're on the south side of the chain, so we're not even in the Bering Sea yet. And we get a call about an injured crewman on the Chelsea K. Me and Dave, and when you're on the boat as pilots, like you swap seats every day. So like, it's Monday, I'm in the right seat. Tuesday, I'm in the left seat. Wednesday, I'm back in the right seat. So it was my day in the right seat, and Dave's like, you feel up to this? And I'm like, yeah. So I'm excited. Here's my first Alaska SAR case. So we have to leave the boat. We fly into Cold Bay. And I remember doing the low visibility approach. The runway's elevated, so we actually had to climb to land on the runway when you come in from the south. Refuel. We go out in the Bering Sea, and it's me, Dave Warenga, and Brian Schmidt. And Brian's gonna, as always, the flight mechanics always play a key role, but Brian tonight is just a rock star. So we get out on scene with the Chelsea K. This lineman had a rope snap, and it came across his face, almost split it. Yeah, it was pretty gruesome. We had to get him off the ship. And 40-foot seas, and the winds are 50, 60 knots. And so we go to put the basket down, and because of the winds and the way we're getting conned, the basket came back, the winds died, and we actually saw the basket in the windscreen in front of me.
Oh my gosh.
Right. So Brian waves it off, says, hey, we'll try to get a trail line on board. We get a trail line on board, and we also have a dock from the boat. For some reason, the ship captain wanted to have us take the dock, the HSC with us. So we got the HSC sitting back in the rescue swimmer seat. Brian cons us in again, and the ship takes a huge roll and pitches up. And Brian goes up, like that. And most flight mechs, when they con, their voice is very commanded and very neutral, as not to get you excited. Brian goes up. So we come up, and I look in front of me, and that mast comes right under the aircraft.
Holy cow.
So Brian Schmidt saved my life. He saved his life. He saved Dave Warenga's life, and he saved the doc's life. But yeah, if I need to name one hero in my life, AMT Brian Schmidt. So we end up.
Shout out to Brian. Dude.
Yeah. And he's so humble. He will not make a big deal out of it. But that's the best part, is I get to be his biggest cheerleader because he saved my life.
Love it.
So
I love it.
We get this guy off the boat. and we take them back to Coal Bay. Now, I had never been to Bill and Mary's. It's about 2:30 in the morning. We've had this heroin SAR case. Bill comes down, and basically he would use his pickup truck. We would drop the tow bar in his hitch on the back of his truck, and you'd stand on it to back it into that state police hangar at Coal Bay.
Yeah.
And then we go to Coal Bay Lodge, and you walk in, and there's this table set for 12 people. And you sit down, and I'm just so frazzled from what's just happened in the last 8 hours. And Mary comes up, and she's like, "You look tired, honey. Would you like some soup?" I'm like, "Yes, I would like some soup. I'll make you some soup. Would you like a sandwich too?" "Yes, I would like a sandwich." So she feeds us. And it's just, so you go from being in the ship in a very sterile, austere environment, and all of a sudden I'm in my grandma's living room at 2:30 in the morning, and she's making me soup and a sandwich.
I love it.
So, but yeah, and
Mary.
we would see Bill and Mary every deployment. And so I did. A couple of weeks later, we had the Galaxy. So we
Yes.
flew with you guys on the Galaxy when the Galaxy exploded. And by the time we got there, you guys had already affected the rescue. It was you and Melissa and who was the
Kendall
flight
and
man?
Mike Simone.
Mike Simone. I
Yeah.
love dropping these old names of people we haven't
Yeah.
seen in forever. So we search. The weather is miserable. So we launch off the boat, but there's pitch and roll limits to get back on, because at some point it's unsafe to try to land the helicopter on a pitching and rolling ship. So we pull up next to it, we drop the hoist hook, and it's called HIFR, which is helicopter in-flight refueling. So basically you hover next to the ship, they hoist the fuel hose up to you, you can plug it into a mount in the floor and refuel. So we do that, we search again. We HIFR'd 3 times, and they're still out of limits. So, okay, go to Coal Bay. All right. Coal Bay, as you can paint the picture for your listeners, is a small Loran station with what, 8 to 10 people?
Yeah.
But
As far
really,
as Coast Guard guys.
it becomes like our support facility when we have SAR cases. So
Yeah.
when we came walking in there into the Loran station, I remember you were literally sleeping on the pool table because they didn't have any more beds available.
Nor deny sleeping on the pool table in the land station.
Right. And so we all just kind of sack out and decompress from searching. We did not bag out. Now in the Coast Guard, if you fly over 6 hours, you're bagged out. You can't fly anymore. You need to have 10 or 12 hours off. We had 5.8. We get woken up at midnight because the Jarvis is out south of the island, and they see a flashing beacon out there, and they think it might be a survival suit. And so we think somebody might be in it. So we go.
So for the record, I actually did not know any of this part of the story, because we were back and we were getting ready to go out the next day, because at that time we were off and Will Milam and his crew was on.
Right.
And we were waiting for that 24-hour change. So I don't know any of this that you're telling me right now.
Will and all those guys were bagged too, though, because we had all searched all day now. So since we weren't bagged, we could fly one more flight. They send us out, and it's snowing, and the winds are blowing 60. And we push the helo out of the hangar, which is perpendicular to the wind, and the helicopter actually weather vanes into the wind.
Holy cow.
So it was like, well, welcome to Alaska. This is crazy. Get in the helicopter. Dave's in the right seat. I'm in the left seat. And it's either Leroy Schmidt or Schmitty. I'm not sure who. And we launch out. And the funny thing about Alaska is you see some things that your brain has a hard time realizing it's seeing. When you're
because you're not sure if it's actually true. Like you're like, this can't actually be happening. Yeah.
We're out there and we're at 400 feet, and I'm watching the Jarvis, which is a 400-foot ship. literally pitch pole up 45 degrees, you know? So I'm like, this is crazy. How, you know, how high are these waves? How high are these seas? So Dave says, hey, we'll shoot a catch, which is a computer aided approach. And we set it to 100 feet instead of the normal 50 feet. So we set it to 100 feet. We come into a hover.
Yeah.
All right. And I watched the radar altimeter go from 100 to 25 and back to 100. So there's a 75-foot wave.
What
And
the heck?
I'm thinking there's no way we can hoist in this. There is no way if someone is literally in the water, I don't know what we're going to do. We get a searchlight on it. We get our goggles on it. It just happened to be some fish in here. And I got to be honest, I was relieved it wasn't anybody. So
Yeah.
we flew back to St. Paul and that was that. But that was my like, aha, wow, welcome to Alaska. I mean, remember the dumpsters. The dumpsters are chained to the ground there.
Yeah.
Because they'll blow away in the winter if you don't
Totally
chain them
will.
to the ground. I mean, the winds and it's just crazy. So,
I have another story from Coal Bay, which I thought was kind of funny. And I don't, it was another deployment that we were out there. I know we're talking about St. Paul, but when we were in Coal Bay, we went to open or close one of the hangar doors. And now, mind you, they're on a track. So they're running, like you slide them, like a barn door would slide. And the wind came in and grabbed that door and folded it open like a door you'd walk into at your house, like folded it open. And all of a sudden we're like, well, that didn't work. Threw a dude, one of the flight mechs, like he's rolling on the tarmac down. I was like, what the hell just happened? The winds are ridiculous.
my youngest son, Patrick, I can remember we were in an ice storm and we're in housing and the winds are blowing and I'm literally watching him blow away as he's like sliding down the driveway, and he thinks it's funny.
And you're like, oh, oh my God.
My wife had been there so long. She was like, would you go get him, please? It was like a nothing burger. It was so fun.
Oh, I love it, man. That's crazy. I actually, like I said, I didn't know you guys flew out at the end of that night to go out to look for
because
somebody.
we still had a couple missing that were unaccounted for.
Right.
After
that I do remember.
And so, I mean, there was the Hulk, it was still there burning. And so we had a bunch of different search patterns. We were just hoping to find the bodies and recover them.
Yeah. 70-foot waves though. Wow.
Yeah. It's crazy out there.
That's big.
Yeah.
Jeez. Woo, man. All right, man. I'm in for this one. Come on, Dan. Keep it rolling.
I do my 4 deployments, and then my time in Alaska is done. So they send me to Port Angeles. I'm gonna be the engineering officer. So Port Angeles had one of the only lieutenant aviation officers. So as an 03, you get to run the hangar deck and have
very cool.
All the people work for you. And man, what a great job. I was so lucky because a lot of the enlisted workforce that I worked for in Kodiak came to Port Angeles with me. So when you're high performers and that's nice. It's almost like having draft picks. You know what I mean? So
I'll take you won the draft. and you, not you.
And so I had a number of just great people there with me, and we're 3 H-65s in Port Angeles, and we do the offshore mission, but there's also an inland mission there, and a lot of the inland mission gets diverted to the firewood crew. That's their call sign for the Navy search and rescue helicopters at Whidbey Island. They have a search and rescue unit there that supports the jet training commands. And
Oh,
so
very
usually
nice.
if there was a high altitude rescue, they would get called. And with the A and B model 65, you couldn't fly above 3,000 feet in hover. It just did,
Right.
the Lycoming engines lacked the power. So we re-engine the aircraft and we get turbo mecha engines in 2006, and we're told, hey, these are great, increased performance. And so
I totally remember all that too.
right. And so we get this call, hey, this guy's at 6,300 feet. He on the south side of Brothers Mountain. He broke his leg and he needs to be medevaced. And I'm like, well, did you guys, where's the Navy? They're doing something else. So can you guys go, can you do it? So Steve Mahaney's the mechanic. I'm sorry, Steve Mahaney's the co-pilot. We crunch the numbers, do the performance planning, and he's like, yeah, it says we can hover at 6,000 feet. All right. So it was me, Steve, Dale Melton was the flight mechanic, and Heavy D, Dougie Lathrop.
Oh, nice.
Dougie was the swimmer.
Freaking
So
love
we go
Dougie.
up there. They're on the south side of Brothers Mountain. We find him. He's about 6,300 feet. And we would hover out of ground effect away from the mountain, no problem. And then every time we conned in to hoist, we'd lose power and droop. And I'm scratching my head. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
Well,
when you
it's
get
a warm
in ground
day.
effect, you should have that extra little bit of lift.
It's a super warm day on the south side of a rock face. So it's 20 degrees Celsius out here. It's 30 degrees Celsius right next to the rock face.
Oh my gosh.
So we dump some gas. And then we go in there and we get Dougie on the ground, and Dougie hoists him up. And as soon as we're hoisting him up, we start to droop rotor because, we're running out of power. So Doug's still outside and we're transitioning to forward flight and coming left.
Awesome.
And everybody loved this because it was the increased capability of the 65. The sobering part of this moment was we had hoist cam footage. Remember how hoist cam footage used to be so rare? Like sometimes you'd have it, sometimes you didn't.
Yeah.
Well, we got it and we came back, and that night, Stephanie Lathrop, Doug's wife, was in watching the video. She came up and she punched me, and she gave me that one finger because I'd almost drug her husband all across Brothers Mountain.
Oh,
and I was like, wow,
okay.
Wow, that's pretty sobering.
So yes, and you saved the entire crew by actually going into forward flight to gain airspeed to get him out of the situation. So you're welcome.
Yeah, but that's kind of like, okay, you have two bad choices,
Yeah.
which
Totally
bad. And anyways, it all worked out. And I love Steph, I love Doug, I love all those guys. But it was a really sobering moment to have a spouse come up and be like, need to be careful with my husband.
That would be my wife too. She's like I'm not even say what she's like because she'll yell at me later, but she'll go to the biggest guy. Don't you mess with my husband.
Yeah.
I love it. That's if you don't mind, can we talk about that a little bit more? Because
sure.
I've done a lot of training and stuff. And by the way, every 60 driver out there is like, 6,000 feet, you bunch of pansies.
Right.
Whatever.
Right.
It's a 65. It doesn't have the same power. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, maybe in France, but not in America. Okay. Whatever.
I used to love to talk to the 60 guys. I'm like, hey, anybody can do SAR in a capable aircraft.
Yeah. Yeah. Give us one that isn't capable and then make it happen. Oh, right. Yeah.
The H-65 was a VIP aircraft that the Coast Guard made into a search and rescue aircraft.
Yeah. Very much so. Well, all right. So that in particular rescue, and I like having this conversation side of it, is because other aircrafts have the same type of performance issues when you get into like a cliff face or in a change of a temperature. And that stuff, like for people that don't do a lot of mountain rescue stuff, you might not think of that, downdrafts or stuff like that. So you're out in this clean air, a little bit cooler off the mountain, and then you roll in, you know, next to it, you might have a downdraft, the air is a little warmer and you start losing lift. So one, for dumping fuel to lighten the load, I love that idea. And then as crazy as it sounds, like I'm with you. And right now today, I would have briefed with you, hey, I'm going to get Doug right off the ground. As soon as we get him off the ground, let's move. Let's pull power if we can and just roll into forward flight to get away from the mountain. And then we'll just slowly descend as I'm bringing him in.
I did set up the hoist so that I kept my power pedal to the cliff. So it, you know, in a helicopter, depending on which way the blades turn, if you add right pedal in the 65, it'll increase torque. So I knew that if I needed to come left and down, I had the power to do it. Cool. So I had an out there, you know, I didn't have to turn right and over torque, you know, while we flew away.
Yeah. Super smart. Like the whole setup of that is
it's called translating torque effect.
Hey, all right.
Hey,
tip and trick for all you pilots out there.
Yeah.
He's not just a pretty face, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, right.
Man, that's good. Wow. Man, thank you for sharing that one. And again, I like the conversation on the backside.
And at that point, you know, still cliff rescue was really new, because back in, I mean, I got to go to, it was called, remember when it was called ARS?
Yeah. Advanced Rescue Swimmer School.
Advanced Rescue Swimmer School. So I got to go to ARS as a 65 pilot. And then when I was a 60 pilot, I got to go to AHARS.
AHARS, Advanced Helicopter
Rescue School.
Yeah, right. I still forget it now. My bad.
But so that was pretty cool, because I got to go to the same course in 2 different aircraft. So awesome. I did 3 years in Port Angeles. It was great. I ended up having another rescue on the same mountain with John Lindborn, Mike Cook, and Christian Poliak in 2007, right off the peak. And Johnny was really funny, because another guy broke an ankle on the peak of a mountain. It's getting dark. Johnny's famous last words were, "Hey man, don't leave me." And we put him down on the rock. We put him down on the rock, and he didn't even unhook, and he just ran over to that guy, stropped him, and he was on the rock less than a minute.
Wow. Well done.
Yeah, John is a super sharp guy, and you know, you learn so much from the people you're around when you share your experiences. Like, one of the things I thought we did really well in the Coast Guard is, anytime there was a search and rescue case, the aircraft commander would type up an email afterwards and copy all the pilots, all the mechanics, all the rescue swimmers, and send it out, because you can learn so much. This institutional knowledge is nice to be able to pass on. Right. You know,
very much so.
And wow, man, why didn't I think about, you know, using 2 trail lines instead of 1? Or wow, why didn't I think of that?
Yeah.
So I love that part of the Coast Guard and hangar flying, and sharing information so that, you know, we can all be better.
Yeah, me too. Bob Watson actually said to me while we were up in Alaska, he's like, I wish I had a way to download everything that I've learned. And I was like, yeah, me too.
Yeah. But, well, that's the best part about those emails, is because you'd read some emails and go, oh, that's the way he did it. I don't know if I do it that way, but it worked. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, or you'd go like, wow, why didn't I think that? That is really sharp that he thought of that.
Yeah.
So
no, I enjoy that. It's part of the reason I really like this conversation here on the podcast, because there's a lot of stuff that I'm learning about. And then there's stuff that I'm like, I relive and like, oh, you know, yeah, I would have done this a little different now today than I would have done back then. you know.
Oh,
It's awesome.
Yeah, when you look at the safety spectrum of pilots, you know, this, like, I always considered myself over on the right. I was always leaning forward, you know. And
Yep.
now that I'm 57 and flying EMS, I'm probably a little bit more over on the left side.
A little more like, we don't have to do that. That's
Right. Well,
takeoff is optional, landing mandatory.
when I got to the A school as the XO, I would sometimes get to do the graduation speeches. And so I would hold up 2 helmet bags. And I'm like, this is your helmet bag full of luck. It's full of luck right now. This is your helmet bag full of experience. It's empty. The goal here is to transfer all of these experiences over to your helmet bag full of experience, so you don't have to rely on luck.
Oh yeah.
And
So all your luck goes to experience. I like that.
When you look at all the instructors in the back, their helmet bag full of luck is empty. There's nothing in it. But they have this helmet bag full of experiences that they can rely on that keep them and everyone with them safe.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. That's good right there.
So did 3 years in, I did 3 years as the XO at the A school. I really had my own personal fitness revolution there. You know, two guys, Eric Bean and Jason Bunch.
And love Jason.
Took me under their wing, and I would train with them in the mornings, and really, and they were not dumb guys. They knew as the XO, I hold the purse strings. Okay.
Yeah.
So while I was there, man, we bought so many Versa climbers and dumbbells. And one of the things now, when a rescue swimmer goes to A school, he loses his hazardous duty pay and he loses his flight pay. So that's a significant hit.
Yeah, it's like $500 a month, give or take. I don't know what it is today, but it would have been something like that back then.
Right. So if we wanted to attract quality people to the A school, I had to come up with some reasons. So one of them was we sent all of them to Athletes Performance for performance training. So they would get 3 weeks at Athletes Performance in Arizona, the same place that they do the NFL Combine, and they would learn state-of-the-art ways to train our A school rescue swimmer candidates. And the other thing, I'm a numbers guy, so I just crunched some numbers, and I came up with this data that you were 75%. There was a 75% chance you would advance while you were at A school if you were an instructor.
A 75% chance that I would advance?
Yes.
I like those odds. Just gonna throw that out there.
Right. So
if I'm a betting man, which I am, that's good odds.
Yeah, if you're a hard charging second class and you want to be a first, come to the A school. I can pretty much guarantee I'll make you a first class by the time you graduate, you're done with your tour. Now, for your listeners, in order to get advanced in the Coast Guard, there's a big testing procedure, and it's in a rate as small as the aviation survival technician. It's very, very hard to advance.
Yep.
Would you agree?
Agreed. Very much so. Yep.
Yeah.
You have to study your butt off. You have to write number 1, 2, or 3 on the test. And even then, if there's an advancement, And I understand now they might be making some changes with that, and some other stuff is coming down the pipe. I don't want to say anything because I don't have knowledge of it. So, but I've been told
you need to here's a shameless plug for Eric Bean. You need to get Master Chief Bean on the podcast.
I'm working on it. Let's go, Eric. Yeah. I heard there's some good stuff coming for advancement stuff for those guys, and a way to do it. And it'll be good. It'll be good.
So I did my 3 years there in my staff tour. I got my master's degree while I was there. My thesis was on rescue swimmer attrition.
That's awesome.
So that was a lot of fun. I really threw myself into that. So that was a good tour. And then I needed as a pilot, as an officer, you need certain billets to advance. So I needed a pre-command tour, which happened to be an 04 engineering officer billet. So I was going to get to go do the job I did before I got to Elizabeth City again. And I was pretty excited because I'd already done it for 3 years. So I know it. They needed an engineer in Astoria flying the 60. And I wanted to fly the 60 so bad. So I signed up. They sent me to the aircraft transition. I swallowed my pride and I was a co-pilot for a year. And I was the engineering officer at Astoria starting in 2010.
You know, it's kind of funny to think about that. Like you got put into a co-pilot seat, still flying the H-60, still flying for the Coast Guard, still flying search and rescue. It just so happens you're in the left seat for the moment.
And quite frankly, at that point in your career, that was my 4th tour.
Yep.
I didn't mind being in the left seat because there were some nights I'd have a young lieutenant that was the AC and he'd be looking at the weather and I would be like, hey, you need to talk to me before you make a decision on the flight.
Nice.
I might not have flown this plane, but this helicopter, but I've flown plenty of them. And this is your first tour. This is my 4th tour. I'm hoping you will look for some insight.
Yeah.
You know, and
Take
those guys,
the advice from those who have been through it. Absolutely.
Most of those guys were great. Most of those guys were great. You know, and I got to meet a whole new, I mean, I knew everybody in the 65 community. I knew some folks from in the 60 community from being in Kodiak. Yeah. And so it was fun. It was enjoyable. And we had some great COs. Doug Kopp was our first CO, and then Captain Bruce Jones was our CO. And then I finished up with Captain Dan Travers. And awesome. So while I was there, I made a decision that I would retire there. They wanted to send me to Coast Guard headquarters. And I made a family choice. I had missed so much of my kids' lives from deployments. I'd done over Coast Guard, over 10 ship deployments as a 65 guy. That's over 2 years of sea time.
That's a long time.
So I'd missed a ton of time with my sons.
Yeah.
I had one that was about to be a freshman in college and one that was about to be a senior in high school. So I dropped my letter. I dropped my retirement letter. And as soon as I did that, Life Flight opened, a local helicopter EMS provider, opened up a base in Astoria. So I'm a plank owner at Life Flight 14 in Astoria. And
that's so awesome.
I've been flying there since 2015.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So still flying. And I'm gonna plug in for one more thing you're doing, which conveniently enough, like out of all the stuff that you did in your career, going to A school and being part of like A school, and for the record, you were the XO to the entire A school. That's all of them. So AMT, AST, AET. So you're the command guy in charge, one of them. But working with the swimmers, and in all that athletic stuff, transition into something that you're doing now, right?
Yeah, I'm super lucky. So here I am, Eric Bean and Jason Bunch are training me. At the time, my kids are like 9 and 10 and they're playing youth football. And I'm like, man, I really loved looking at athletic performance. And so whatever Eric and Jason would teach me during the week, on Sunday afternoons at my house in Elizabeth City, all the local kids would come by and, you know, we'd be throwing medicine balls and hurdles and doing sprints and push-ups and pull-ups. And I really enjoyed the coaching aspect of being a strength and conditioning coach. So I said, when I go to Astoria, I'd like to do that. So when I got here, me and my ex-wife Margie volunteered as the strength and conditioning coach at Seaside High School. And we got to do all the in-season and off-season programming for a 400 student high school for 8 years.
Wow, that is awesome.
it was a blast. And now I have a small company called Northwest Athletic Performance. I train, middle and high school athletes. I always wanted to be a football coach and train, football players in the weight room, but girls softball and basketball seems to be my niche. I train a ton of girls softball and basketball players, and
That is
it's
awesome.
fun. Yeah, make them run faster, make them jump higher,
Yeah.
prevent injuries. So I've been doing that now since 2010, so about 12 years.
That is awesome. So you and you are still flying EMS because you just got off work. Hey, and
Yeah,
you're beating up on kids in the morning. It's awesome.
I'm not beating up on kids. I'm coaching.
Oh, sorry. Pushing their limits to the next level. Yeah.
There you go. My shifts at Life Flight start at 9 a.m. So all of my training sessions with the kids are usually in the morning.
Perfect.
So I'll get up early. We'll go to the gym. We'll do a training session. I'll grab a shower, and then I'll go to Life Flight. And then on my off week, I just do other stuff. So.
Oh, that's awesome. That is awesome. Dan, well done. And I've been following you on Instagram as well, just to watch what you and the kids are doing. I saw them doing like box jumps, landing on one leg versus the two, and for the stability on the top of the jump, plates stacked up. So you're doing the, trying to get high jumps, how high you can go. So I love it. You've got bars. One of the things that I really liked watching was some of your Olympic lifting with, you had, what the heck was it? It was plywood plates. So the same size as a regular plate, but they're made out of plywood. So there's no weight on it. And you're working on the technique move for that in particular exercise or that movement. It was awesome.
Yeah, it's the same height as a normal plate is. So their body gets the kinesthetic awareness of, okay, this is where I start.
Yeah. Love it. Oh, it's perfect. And it's awesome.
And they make technique plates that size, but they're like $100 a piece. And I'm like, man, I can make this. I'll go down to the wood shop and make them.
Totally. I might actually do that anyway, just to have like, a plate on the inside of the rubber plate so it doesn't bounce around so much.
Yep.
I'm thinking ideas already.
Yep. Yeah.
So before I let you go, is there anything that stands out to you in any of your DD stations that really just, made an impact on you that you could pass on to everybody else?
Quinny, I'm so happy you said that. At my first air station, we had in 04 a lieutenant commander, and his name was Blake Burris. And when I showed up, his nickname, this is what the other pilots called him, not himself, because he would never call him this, but Don Dyer, Mark Driver, they'd call him Great One. And I'm
Great
like,
One. Oh, that's
and
good.
I'm like, Donnie. And Don Dyer is hysterical. He'd be another guy, great guy for your podcast. So Donnie's like, he's the greatest pilot to known humanity because there may be an equal in unknown humanity. And Blake was just a super funny guy because he would look at Don and he would say something like, Donnie, I can take everything you know about aviation, put it on a piece of paper, wrap it up and stick it in my eye and live with no discomfort for 20 years.
Wow. Oh, that's deep right there.
But so Blake taught me how to fly the 65, and he was just a pilot's pilot, an amazing man, a great dad, a great husband. And he always put what was important first. Okay. He never lost sight of priorities, and he would tell you, he'd be like, hoisting should be your last option. It's the last thing you want to do. If you have to do it, you do it. And he had this little tongue-in-cheek thing called Burris's Rules of SAR, Blake's Rules of Search and Rescue.
That's good, because I have my own rules too.
So again, I can't quote it. I'm going from memory, but like, Rule number one, in the history of SAR, there's never been the death of a dispatcher or a controller in a SAR case. Double check their work, because we would get search patterns from the command center, and you want to make sure you're searching in the area you're supposed to be searching in, not a restricted area, not something that's going to fly you into rocks or something like that. So that was good advice. 5 minutes of planning is worth 2 hours of flying, which is, don't be in a rush to climb in the aircraft. Make sure you've done all your paperwork and done a good risk assessment before you get in the aircraft.
That's good advice too. Wow.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay. Medals and accolades are nice. Coming home safe with your crew is better.
Absolutely.
To follow
the Finnish
that one
boys,
on,
yeah, all the Finnish boys are like, that's right.
yeah, all the any medals and accolades are the result in inaccurate press accounts or bad head work. And then probably the 50-50
on that one.
The one that stuck with me the most is the process of evolution cannot be stopped. And what that means is, some days you're going to do everything right, and there's still going to be a negative outcome.
Yeah.
But that's why we have to be masters of our craft, so that when you have those bad days where the person doesn't live, you can reflect on your process and your procedures and go, we did everything right. There's nothing we could have done different to affect a difference. Because sometimes you save a life, but sometimes you're just going to save your sanity. So yeah, Boris's Rules of SAR. Another guy. I'm giving you a bunch of guys that could come on.
I love it. Name dropping left and right. Every one of you. Call me. Just everybody. Just call me. Let's go. Let's make this happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Dan, this has been an awesome conversation. Thank you so much for dropping these stories and great advice, and what you're doing now with the kids. Man, I'm hoping one of them becomes a rescue swimmer. I'm pulling for every one of them. Yes. So you're still out in Oregon right now?
I'm in Astoria, Oregon.
All right. I'm going to come out there, and maybe I'll come out to advanced school and bug those guys when they're there. And when that happens, I'm calling you. All right.
Please do. I'd love to see you, man.
It'd be awesome. So next time we're together, it'll be with a beer in hand. Hey, I love it. Right on, Mr. Dan. Well, thank you again, sir. I appreciate it. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we are out of here. Go. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Real ResQ podcast. Please take a minute to like, subscribe, and hit that share button. I'm pulling chocks and taking off. But before I go, if anyone out there has a rescue story they would be willing to share, I would be humbled and honored to have you on as a guest. Or if you have any questions about rescue or anything else we talk about here, send an email to jason@therealresq.com. That's Jason at TheRealResq.com. You can also check us out on our web pages, therealresq.com, our Facebook page, and our Instagram page @TheRealResQ. Again, a special thank you to all of you staying on the watch today. Always remember, when that SAR alarm goes off, those in distress are praying for a miracle. They are going to get you. Until next time, fly safe and swim hard.